Welcome, everybody, to the SEO Mad Scientist podcast. My name is Mike. I'm joined with my good friend Alex today. This is like I said, SEO Mad Scientist podcast, where we review recent SEO tests, go over test data, draw conclusions and theories based on what we're seeing, and more than anything, let you know what we are seeing with our internal tests at Web20 Ranker, so you can not just hear it from the SEO specialists and Google itself, but we can firsthand get knowledge of what is moving the needle and what isn't. So go ahead, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we can get right into it. How is your day going, Alex? How you doing? Thanks for
Slowly but
joining
surely,
us.
it's no longer snowing here in Wyoming, so I can't complain.
Yeah, it's cold. It's really cold here in Omaha. I wouldn't be surprised if it snowed in March. Jeez, it's almost the end of March. It's almost April. It's going to be April in what, a couple weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week?
It's holding out for those storms in May.
I got my birthday's next month.
See, there you go.
I Yeah, I was like, holy crap, I'm turning 38. I'm getting close to 40, and it's getting up there. Yeah, but so I sat down the other day and I did the math because I realized something didn't seem right, and it turns out I'm actually turning 37 in April. I have been like a year ahead in my birthday celebrations for it has to be at least 2 years now. So I feel like I just got a free year of life back.
That's
It
holy.
was it was I seriously, because I know last year I celebrated 37, and I know I celebrated 36 the year before that. So 35, I must have skipped 35. That's the only way, because it's the furthest I can go back. So
Oh man, that's funny. So you found the fountain of youth.
it
Just
is.
start at
Pe-
50 and then work your way back.
People are lying about their age and making themselves younger when you should be lying about your age and making yourself older. That's the ticket. Because then as you get older, then bam, you're all of a sudden 5 years, 10 years younger.
Oh my gosh, you look so much better for your age.
Right? Exactly. It's like, man, I'm 49 years old right now. I look pretty damn good if you ask me, huh? Huh?
That's awesome.
So yes, happy birthday to me next month, next year, next year too. But yes, not as close to 40 as I thought, which isn't a bad thing. But until then, we're gonna have some fun looking over some SEO tests. I'm actually gonna share my screen because there was a lot.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, just a lot of stuff. I'm gonna try and verbalize it as much as possible too for people who are listening and can't see my screen. Because, and if you've watched the previous episodes, we've gone over every single one of these tests on a previous episode. This is essentially me over the past, I would say, week doing a much deeper dive into kind of what happened, what we're seeing now, why we might be seeing things then versus now. There's the hardest part about testing, and I think Alex would agree, is understanding what just because we do something and see a result doesn't necessarily mean we understand why we're getting a result. And if you sit down with 5 SEOs in a room and argue why something is working or not working,
You're gonna get
you're
six.
gonna have it's gonna be a fun little conversation. So even I try to be as impartial as I can when I'm looking at this, and so I try to focus on what I can really see. So, this is the test I was telling you about, Alex. This is the one that Mark did the YouTube video on. So we did a bunch of these YouTube videos with different towns in the city and state, and Spokane Professional Painters is the brand name, and essentially painter, town, city, and state was, I guess you would say, the keyword. And within each one of these, there's Google Map, a link to Google Earth. And there was a lot of time actually spent into building that whole thing out, right? And we had gone over the results. We definitely saw I wouldn't say movement in the beginning, but in the beginning we saw that the listing was showing in a certain area, and then it kind of seemed to show a little bit better for a moment. And I think the last update we did, we were like, it's pretty much gone. Like all these rankings went away. This is a very zoomed out area, though. We have been running geogrids that are much more zoomed in to the area that the listing was verified at. And this is essentially where the driving directions were built to. There's driving direction links in all these videos. So the we went over this in the update. If you go back and watch that, read it on the website. I think the new SEO library, testing library, is live, so you should be able to find this pretty easily. Maybe we'll throw it in the link somewhere. But anyways, you can go to the SEO testing library now, sign in, and get the full updates on these. But while I was going through this, the one that kind of stood out to me from the very beginning was this paint removal services. And we were actually tracking the geogrids before this in SERP results. One of these over here. But anyways, I don't want to jump around like crazy. So paint removal services we started showing in the geogrids for in this area. And paint removal services is not really something that was being targeted. Um, it's not really in here. We have painter. Obviously, everything encompasses painting, but just like you can see local painting companies, that wasn't showing. This is a little more targeted than not, right? It's kind of like an actual service as opposed to like painting services, paint removal service. So when I was looking at the website, and I was trying to figure out kind of where those maybe geogrids were pulling from, I noticed that we have removal on the homepage one time, and I think it's actually on this additional services page too. Yeah, popcorn ceiling removal, wallpaper removal, ceiling painting. I don't think there's actually a reference to paint removal. Obviously, the word paint shows up a ton on here, but that kind of led me to start looking at this wallpaper and popcorn removal as well, because this office painting service, also, we weren't really targeting office on here, but we have office 11 times on the home page. And this is something I think Lasha had mentioned a lot on the previous episode about how the website itself um, seems to be a massive influence on the GBP. We've done tests on this too in the past. We know we tested specifically things that hyperlink carry more weight, things that are in H headings, H1, H2s carry more weight. The probably the least weighted factor that we have found for on page for a GBP is just the basic text. Like that's kind of, it seems to be weighted, but it's the least weighted. When it comes to these type of links, hyperlinks and things, so like wallpaper and popcorn removal, which is also on the inner pages here, I know I started kind of looking into what else was showing. Here's wallpaper removal. Not showing good, obviously, but it's kind of all over. Definitely being influenced by something. And I would not guess, I'm not betting it's on this, right? Like this could be maybe influencing the authority, or the YouTube videos and stuff could be maybe pushing Googlebot to index things and crawl it. But the actual term and where it's getting these wallpaper and ceiling terms from is not going to be from there, right? And well, I mean, first of all, Alex, do you think these videos would influence those type of terms?
No, I completely agree with you. I
Like,
think that the videos have nothing to do with influencing those specific keywords showing. Um, but they probably do have something to, um, Sorry. They probably
Yeah, no
do have
problem.
something in relation to those
Like the
actually
authority.
like the authority of that location, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably going to be more. There are two separate cases that you're seeing a result for, two separate factors, variables that are producing the result that you're seeing. Um, I know with the on-page stuff, the results that you're getting are really, really interesting because I know the overall consensus is that as Google is going more towards like a knowledge graph style ranking, that the more services you're covering, the better. However, those are services that would be within a knowledge graph in that same genre, but aren't appearing on the site. So I'm also curious how much Google's making assumptions based off of the knowledge graph that they build.
Yeah, and I think we've noticed that in the past too. We had an electrician GBP listing that was showing for like some plumbing and or it was a plumber that was showing for like gas line terms or something, which they do. But there was no like there's definitely I think some assumptions that Google's making, but it is very interesting to see like this right here. So residential painting services, right? If we go look at the website, residential is just here residential interior painting, residential painters, and then down here residential interior painting. These here, residential interior painting, it's not residential painting or commercial painting, it's residential interior painting. And when we look at the geogrids, residential painting services, here's what we're seeing. But when we look at residential interior painting, we could see a very big difference in the type of rankings there is. And also when we go look at the same with the commercial, we have commercial painting services, nothing's ever shown. Commercial painting contractors, nothing's ever shown. We got commercial interior painting, we have some nodes popping. And it's literally the one version that we have in the menu and in the hyperlink. And like I said, the hyperlink text and headings seem to be the biggest impact in this. So like painting services, I think, is another one. And that's those are the towns. We'll go into that in a minute. Or is it over
Have you
here?
done any like on-page tests with having like commercial painter as the heading and having like that interior painting and all the other like all those other LSI of that commercial painting weighted inside of the actual page?
Yeah. I mean, that's generally how I do my SEO.
Well, I know, but
So
like there's so the difference between having it in text versus like a subheading or whatever for LSI or for like
yeah. Yeah, no,
their
headings, like I said,
going
are
above something,
weighted.
like
The
whatever our
text
knowledge
is
graph
not
is like
the text is
keywords are.
not heavily weighted. So
That's
pretty
what I'm
much
saying.
yeah, when I talk about optimizing on page, especially the page that's being linked to from the GBP, my number one focus is hyperlinked items, and that includes the menu, even this header and footer. Um, but I do think that this one down here carries more weight than the header and footer link, just to be clear. You could remove this header and the footer, and I think a lot of these would still show because they're here where it's most important. But yes, when it comes to optimizing the page, the headings and then the hyperlinked text, which read our reviews is obviously not a good, I mean, it's not a bad hypertext, but I would probably put the brand name in there just because then it's optimizing for the brand plus reviews.
Put bulleted and listed items above normal text as well.
Yes, and bulleted if so like if you are I think we had some data on that too with actually structured lists and whatnot because a structured list actually seemed to carry some slight more weight to it. But especially if we would use it in a way like roofing services was the primary term, But then we had like inner pages for sub services, right? On the website, those were a bullet point list then that had hyperlinks or whatever like that. So yes, tying in the different types of structuring, on page structuring, definitely plays a difference. And having blocks of text is the least impactful. Like, this is not a block of text. This is a little bit of text. This is the way I would do it. You have a good heading, you have some information, you have a good heading, you have some information with hyperlinks. This is actually very well optimized, except in that I probably wouldn't have put interior in here, right? And then I probably would have maybe put lists with some of these garage floor painting, kitchen painting, because then there would be a little bit more emphasis on those terms. Now, here's the interesting thing, too, that I also was looking at, because I think what it really comes down to is, does this move the needle? And I mean, with what we've seen, would you say, Alex, that this would really, do you think this really moves the needle, doing this optimization for
Well,
you?
we saw it move the needle a little bit temporarily, but would
Hmm.
I put money and time into building this out based off the tests that we've seen thus far? No, I wouldn't.
Okay. And I mean, especially I think when we look at like a grid, like spoken professional painters, we were building directions from I think like all the way up here in the map. So we don't really see too much from a driving direction strategy, right? Like, we're showing kind of where we were listed at, and it seems to maybe showing a little better. But what I wanted to really see, which I was curious, is this painter and town, the actual painter town keywords without the city. And so I ran a ton of these: painter Northwest, painter Rockwood, painter Moore Prairie, this one. These are all essentially showing for the towns as a term that is the name of the video. Some of these aren't showing well, obviously, but I literally just checked this like 10 minutes like before we got on. This was very interesting to me. Now, there's no one here. This is no competition. Let's all be clear. This does not mean that we're going to run out and start making YouTube videos with optimized titles and all these links. But the fact that there's definitely looks to be some clear correlation. And is it just their long tail terms? I don't know. Like, maybe we just try, let's Duncan, Duncan. Is that like nowhere? We should probably try a term like that, huh? Let's see if that. But a lot of times when actually not a lot of times, most of the time when I'm testing, this is kind of where I like to dig and try and figure out if something is showing a result or not showing a result or showing something interesting. A lot of our tests, we've actually figured out how to do things in a strategic way, not because of the result we got from what we did. We got what we were trying to test, but because we saw something completely different or something happen just in general when it was when
Well,
we
yeah, it's
did the
that
test.
interesting rabbit hole, right? You test one thing and you're like, oh, what is that? And then you test something else and you're like, oh, that's different than I thought. And you just keep going.
So Duncan is showing really good. So maybe it's not the YouTube video. It's just non-competitive. Maybe it's just because it's long tail, right? So far, I'm looking at this and thinking that it may have maybe just like getting a citation pushed Googlebot around a
Some
little,
relevance to the
picked
area.
up,
And that's why you're seeing
yeah, or just
the
some
no
authority. It got Google crawling stuff, and maybe. But is it? We did spend a lot of time building like the Google Earth stuff, and
I know
then
I used to do something similar like this when I was doing lead gen. Um, I did it for phone calls, not for maps rankings. But you'd be surprised how much, like, some super targeted long tail geo relevant videos do drive phone calls and do drive traffic. So the cool thing about that is unlike well, I mean in mass and volume, right? Not like
Yeah.
little
I
videos
know
doing it.
YouTube videos used to actually rank in like organic search a long time
Yeah,
ago,
they
and that
did.
was, but I
Yeah.
mean, I don't see that really as much nowadays.
They do still, but not as much. They're not as prominent. But yeah, I mean, YouTube for that focus was amazing back in the day. Um, and since Google likes Google, it would make sense that creating more, Google properties would give you some sort of value, right, from an authority perspective.
Yeah, I mean, just like any type of structured or unstructured citation, I think though, right? Like I don't know if the Google Map or Google Earth. I don't subscribe to the Google Earth really being a needle mover at this point.
I've done a
Um,
lot of fucking around with Google Earth, and it's never moved the needle to the point or been been on my radar as something that I would be utilizing to benefit rankings. That seems to be kind of its own siloed, redheaded stepchild of Google.
yeah, it's like its own separate entity
Kind of,
thing,
yeah.
and they don't seem to really influence each other. So yeah, I mean, we'll obviously keep an eye on it. At this point, I think it's maybe doing something to the extent that any other link building structured NAP type of stuff would do, but not really a major needle mover or impactor, to be honest. And I'm going to jump right into our PBN test too, because this is one that we've been, not PBN test, our GMB map embed test. This is one I know we talked about, I think, a lot we talked in general about with map embeds when Lasha was on, and how he
Yeah.
kind of subscribes more to the optimization and linking of the website more than the embed of the GMB and linking to the CID and GMB link, which we're obviously testing always. We got some other things going on, but this test specifically was embedding the map, having the name, address, and phone number, and then linking to the GMB CID with keywords, and then putting a title in the map embed that has keywords in it. And I mean, whether it's the title, the link, all that, we kind of are just throwing all that for now to see, you're right, what's kind of going on. This is the first test. The first test we've already reported on. We'll probably do an update on it. And we can see that there's some ranking, some movement, but there was something I was checking on here too, like tree removal. I wanted to see, like the other one, we have additional services that has roofing terms and tree removal terms, but they're not on the home page, I think, here at all. Oh, we do have tree services. There's tree removal right there. So we're not seeing roof repair or roofing services and tree services. I know I was checking a few of those. Um, Definitely a little more competitive, but not a single node roofing repair whatsoever. Like I said too, though, this is just on an inner page and then in the text. I don't think this isn't a hyperlink. Whoops. Yeah, this isn't a link at all. So this is all just text. That's probably not a heading, I'm assuming. Yeah. So if we made tree services or tree removal headings, and maybe we had them listed up here with the term instead of just additional services on an inner page, um, I was kind of digging into that some more. But again, I do think my main point is I'm thinking that homepage is probably a much bigger influence than the inner pages in a lot of these things that we're seeing. Um, so it would be interesting, like this one here. I'll probably go back and do more PBN map embeds and links, but I'm probably going to target tree removal services, right? Because this clearly isn't being influenced by the homepage. We'll run through GeoGrid, yeah, and that'll give us more of a baseline on the map embeds test. And then this is another map embed test. This is bed bug removal, bed bug extermination. And this one had a lot of keywords that just were not showing at all since since last December when we started tracking it. And on March 19th, pretty much every single keyword that was not showing at all, or every keyword that had previously showed and stopped showing, or every keyword that was already showing, every single one had movement on or March 19th. I know I put in the order to have the team start building the geogrids on the 11th, and they started on the 12th. So I'm not sure how many are built yet. I think I had like 100 or 200 built. Like we went pretty heavy. So this is definitely, I would guess, the very beginning of what we're seeing with if we're seeing movement from the PBN links. But you could see literally every term, and this one here, as of the 12th or 19th, we had some weird rankings on this one. It was like this weird strip. And then it started getting kind of weird, yeah. And then on the 19th,
you don't see very often.
Yeah, it is. We went from like this to this, and then it like went crazy, and then it was like, no, we're just doing a straight strip down the middle. And then on the 19th, though,
So how to get racing lines in SEO.
that's whatever that's worth. So the 27th, we did actually see some nodes starting to pop. It was the 19th when I said everything kind of saw this shift. One way or another. Either things moved that were ranking, went up in rankings, or started showing. It was on the 19th. Like here, you could see 19th too. Well, see, and this one disappeared, I guess, as December. We could see that here. So I had exact numbers. We'll have the exact numbers on the website. But how many of these keywords that just popped out of nowhere, like this one never had shown previously, and then all of a sudden on the 19th showed. Some of these were showing in December, January, and then disappeared, and then all of a sudden March 19th started showing. Some went up on March 19th. Like this one here was, or that's one that was previously showing. This one I think was showing before. Yeah, so before March 19th, it actually started showing a little bit. And then on March 19th, started showing much more. So 19th, interesting date. I'm going to be digging more into when the PBN links were placed, maybe when PBN links, when the map embeds and backlinks were placed. We have PBN tiered links, to be clear. So we have map embeds with NAP, anchor text links, and like a guest post kind of fashion, but they're not like good guest posts. They're pretty standard, simple sites. And then we have tiered linking. How many tiered? I think I did I think I did 100 PBN map embeds and like 400 tiered links or something like that. So I would expect to see. This is what, a weekend, a little bit over a weekend now. Over the next few weeks, we'll have more updates on that and really dig into those kind of.
Starts looking like a Christmas tree.
Yep. And it's interesting too, again, when I started to dig into like non-toxic bed bug treatment, and you start to look at the site and kind of the non-toxic is one of those terms that popped and is showing, but there was no reference to it on the site. So it could be something that's just being assumed by Google. Toxic on here? No. Or it could be something, I mean, not, it had to have been assumed, right? Because it looks like all the toxic ones were showing prior to the test at one point. Emergency. I think there's emergency on there. Did I spell that right? Yeah, I did, right? Oh, wow. Emergency isn't on there. There's no emergency on the homepage of the website. That one was assumed before as well, except for this one. Emergency bed bug exterminator. What are you thinking, Alex? Any comments?
Man, I think a lot of that comes back to like that whole knowledge graph thing, where it's just so important to have, like your just everything that encompasses that topic on the site, because obviously all those things, if they're being assumed already, then those are opportunities that you can take advantage of from a ranking perspective, right? So you're essentially leaving rankings on the table by not doing that.
So, residential is referenced right here. That's it. Residential solar design and installation services. That's the only time it references residential. And residential was not showing any terms at all from the very beginning. And that definitely was a term that we built anchor text with. So
And
we know,
and
we
now it's
definitely know. Yeah, we
once
definitely.
you
Oh, sorry, this isn't the homepage. Let me go look at the homepage. That would probably help. I was like, I could have swore residential was on here. Reselling. Oh, no, I guess that was,
that bottom one.
yeah, just that one. This one here.
Yeah.
That's the only place it says residential on the website. So now, if we obviously would have put more emphasis, like you said, and built out the knowledge graph and things like that, that obviously all plays a part. But I think I mean, at this point, I am thinking, even from the previous test, we've seen some significant movement for terms with these map embeds and link building. I think this test is going to give us the most insight, though, because we went pretty heavy. We should see some more of these, I think, light up pretty heavy over the next 2-3 weeks. You know?
It'll be interesting to see if they do.
Sorry. Yeah, it'll
Because
definitely be
with the
interesting.
assumption that it is going to line up like a Christmas tree, then um, I don't know. I think tests that don't follow the expectations that you have are always more interesting, right? Because you're like, oh, okay, that's different. Now what, right? So it'll be interesting to see, especially since we're coming just out of a core algorithm update as well. Doing tests like this post update, um, it's always nice to see, hey, here's the expectation that I have based on everything up to this point. Does it still fall in line, or is there some anomaly?
So I am gonna do one more PBN test as well. Because at the end of the day, we really want to know, is it what we're doing that's impacting it, or what are we doing that's impacting it? So I actually have this as a test listing. We're tracking, well, I'm tracking SEO terms for, there's literally nothing on here about any of the SEO terms that I'm going to target. And essentially, the only optimization it's going to get is embeds with the CID anchor text links that we're testing now. So I think this is going to be probably the most definitive on whether or not anchor text links to the GMB or whatever. Actually, I think this is the wrong listing. I have a different one. I just realized this is the Omni Digital Online one. So whatever, if people go and do something to this, no worries. But yes, I'm going to be testing this with as little influence on anything, because like you said, we know building out the knowledge graph and all the on-page signals and all that matters, but do these embeds and backlinks really influence rankings? From our first test, I would say yes. From the current test, I would say we're seeing some movement, definitely. We should see a lot more from the expectations I have. When we actually get down to if we have a completely unoptimized listing with a completely unoptimized website, if it moves the needle by building embeds and anchor links, then I think we can all agree, right?
Significantly, yeah,
That
exactly.
it works. So we're gonna have some exciting updates on all of those tests over the next few weeks, but this is definitely given me some insight, not only just on the PBN link and the anchor text and I keep saying PBN, the map embeds for the Google Maps and the anchor text CID links with the tiered PBN links when also considering the mini networks and stuff we went over last week, all of that stuff, I do have a strong feeling, along with you, Alex, and Lasha, that a lot of what we see is heavily influenced by the on-site, right? What is on the website. Even when the listing isn't optimized, we see such a strong correlation between the on-site and the listing rankings. So gonna do some more single variable tests with no
And
optimization.
do you have any back or off page like backlink tests in the works, Mike?
For organic or for local, you mean? Like we're linking to the website with anchor text links to see how it impacts local?
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
I thought you did. Yeah.
Yep, yeah, I just got that going, I think just the other day. There's actually a few others that I wanted to test as well. What was it? Essentially the theory was, or the hypothesis was that things that impact organic rankings will impact local geogrid rankings. If local terms, right? If they're not local terms, it's not going to impact the geogrid when there's no geogrid. Uh, but with that said, we're essentially going to test anything in organic and see how those organic concepts impact local rankings, like we've already done with on-site and other things. And I think it's pretty well known in the SEO industry that there's things that you do for organic that help local, or things that you do for local that help organic. But I'm feeling like
Yeah, they're not as worlds as they used to be.
I'm thinking you're right
Like
with that.
specific
We're
things that.
seeing, yeah, we used to refer to it as like a blended algorithm, or non unblended algorithm. And I think it's more what we're seeing is that Google is probably using more of its organic index and organic concepts to influence its local rankings, right? Like almost like it's leaning more towards like geogrids are taking a lot from possibly organic signals and then introducing the proximity signal on top of it. You know what I mean? Um, and so, yeah, it's figuring out what if any of those standalone things in local actually move the needle is going to play a big part in our success and everyone's success, honestly, moving forward.
Well, and local's gotten a lot more popular over the years too, and taken a lot um away from like because we all have to remember like Google's an advertising company, right? That's how they make their money, and the whole reason they came out with like LSA and Google Guarantee and everything was in order to um take away from local um from an advertising perspective, and so that's the other battle that's happening in the background as well that a lot of people forget about. And so when it comes to figuring this stuff out, um, you know, Google is never your friend in this scenario because you're doing the exact opposite of what their their upgrade path is, right? Because it's
Yeah.
toward ads as opposed to free traffic. So that's the other thing to keep in mind is that as they're making updates to local, they always want to make this aspect of things more difficult or more um, unclear, right? Because
Mhm.
the better that is from a barrier entry perspective, the more people are just going to drive right to ads. And so that's kind of the cool thing on our end, right? So by doing SEO, we're able to wade through that through the testing that you're doing, right? And you know, save people a ton of money because the other thing, I don't know if you've put this together, Mike, but the other thing that's really cool is to look at some of these tests and be like, hey, what kind of ad spend would I need in order to get the same result? Right?
Oh,
How much did I spend on this on just even a test versus, like it's such an exponential increase. You'd have to spend so much money in order to get the same results. And that's consistent, right? That's not a one-time
yeah.
input.
That's a
And
metric.
so
I mean, you could use that metric for your clients. Export a list of clicks from your Google Search Console and put them alongside CPCs and do the math. That's actually something
that's actually that's how I used to sell SEO
I used
100%.
to sell it like that, but I've never actually done that from a reporting standpoint. That's something we should
Oh,
look
really?
into. No, I never actually took the keywords from Search Console and then the number of clicks and then like converted that into the current CPC and gave that like on a monthly basis how much the paid
So hot
traffic would have
hot tip,
cost.
everybody, anyone that's doing SEO, if you do that on your say your monthly report or however often you're doing your reports, the cool thing about having that number is it helps with client retention, like drastically helps with client retention
We have
if
the
you do
data.
that.
I mean, we have the data. We could probably include that in our data studio report. Now that I think of it, because I actually used to do that a lot more. Now that I look back, but that was way before local. That was like I don't even know if we had an 8 pack back then. I don't even think there was a map pack at that time when I was really hustling. Yeah, I was really hustling that organic stuff, man. And but yeah, the concept of because we have a lot of the keyword data from the GBP listing, and we know cost per click compared to the keywords you're getting clicks for GBP. That's massive. So yeah, definitely something we'll have to look into. Everyone else should look into for client retention. Um, and from a GeoGrid standpoint, yeah, I mean we obviously lean heavily on GeoGrids too just because um, sometimes you can't just see the calls and the traffic right away. You know what I mean? So you gotta kind of lean on that while we're making progress until we get there kind of deal. But once you start getting them clicks and calls, that's a great metric to show how much you saved every month.
Well, and at this point too, like if TikTok has proven anything, it's interaction's important, engagement's important, but fucking eyeballs are everything, right?
Yeah, it's the
So,
number of
I
views.
mean, at the end of the day, how much visibility do you want on something, right? And so, the more visibility you have and more eyeballs you have, the better off. So, even if you're not getting, calls and clicks and whatever from an insights perspective, that doesn't mean you're not influencing the eyeballs in that area. And so, the cool thing about that is from the old like billboard saying is it's all brand awareness, right? It's about, how many people see it. Well, there's something to be said about that, but the argument is now very relevant in local maps, right? That visibility is more important. I'd rather have more visibility in a larger area than only a couple of clicks from one spot, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why SEO is not like a one keyword game. It's definitely much more holistic if you want to be really successful. So, testing will definitely allow us to become more strategic, but at the end of the day, also take tests with a grain of salt. Don't just make huge shifts. Don't start doing new things or stop doing things just because you get some data on one test. Me and Alex were talking about that before we got on. You know, you don't want to make massive moves just because you see like one thing or this happen or that happen. You really got to test over and over, which is that's what we're doing here to really dig in and see what's working and not working. Um,
Well, and you have to take everything into like consideration too, because like these tests are happening in a certain period of time under a certain algo in a certain condition in a certain geo, and so unless every single one of those things perfectly matches in your scenario, then that's where taking that grain of salt and like really looking at like, okay, what's the concept of this test telling me? How can I tweak stuff as opposed to making those massive shifts, right?
More than anything, I highly suggest everyone get a test site. Have your own site. If you see, whether you're taking someone's training or you're watching this, just go throw it at a test website of yours and try it and see what you see. You know, experience it for yourself before you just run with anything. But we try to give as much data as possible here. We have a ton of new tests coming up between we're doing some Pareto tests as well for on-page using competitor parity. We're using some Google tools specifically from Google that looks at the on-page intent and things like that. We should have some stuff on that as well. And yeah, I think that's about it. We should probably wrap it up. We've had quite a long session. Oh, we're at 45 minutes. Holy crap. Getting hot. A lot of tests going on. Yeah. There's so much going on right now. I mean, not just test wise, but at Web 20 with the dashboard updates, a lot of exciting things, making massive updates to even just the campaigns, link strategies, how we're sourcing guest posts, higher quality links, all that good stuff. So definitely an exciting time. Yeah, I guess let's wrap it up. You got anything for our fellow friends out there, Alex, before we?
Just everybody check out the SEO Mad Scientist library. You're going to get all the in-depth information and everything else going to the website itself. The other thing to note is if you have some test ideas, if you don't have a test site, or if you're like, hey, I just don't have the time, submit them. You can submit them on the SEO Mad Scientist page. Go ahead and go to web20ranker.com/SEO-mad-scientist, and you can go ahead and submit your own test ideas, and we'll go ahead and take those into consideration for future stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Good point. Let us know what you're thinking. We can test it if you can't test it for yourself. Other than that, join us next week. We will be back with more SEO Mad Scientist tests. Thanks again, Alex, for joining us today. Everyone,
thanks for having me.
Remember, go ahead, like, subscribe. We're on all your favorite podcasting platforms. And until next week, happy testing. Bye.